Hello folks, welcome back to the Honda channel. I want to show you something. If you don't want this to happen to your auger gearbox, the shaft is broken there. We see this a lot. Honda shops and small engine shops see this all the time. If you don't want this to happen to your snowblower, I'm going to show you how to grease the augers on a Honda snowblower without grease Zerks. It only takes about 10 minutes. You can do it every fall. It's suggested that you do it every fall. And it only takes about 5 or 10 minutes. Once you've done it, every year you just have to do a little bit of maintenance on it to keep the augers free, and you're good to go. But if you haven't done it on your Honda for many, many years, most people don't know about this. You might have problems, and I'm going to show you right now how to do it. First of all, this is my 624. I put it up laid it back on the handlebars. It's easy to do this service point in this position. And actually, my Honda needs a service. So I'm going to show you one of the first things I do. I want to make sure that the augers will turn freely on the shafts. Here's a good gearbox here. You want to be sure that the augers will spin freely. Now, if they don't, see, this is all rusty. A lot of rust water gets in there and it rusts up, and then the augers will get stuck. So these arms are pretty small. On a lot of other brand snow blowers, they have grease Zerks to pump in grease. But these are so small that they don't put the grease Zerk fittings on the augers. So I show you what I do. First of all, I take out the shear pin, the little shear pin. See, here's your little auger shear pin. Set that aside. You want to make sure this turns. You see how it turns freely? That's what you want to see. Now, the reason why mine works okay is because I usually service it every year, every fall, before I need it. Now, what you do is you put some oil, you spray some oil. You can use all kinds of different oils, anything that's going to stick. You can use, some people like to use this graphite spray. It's graphite spray, dry film lubricant. You can use that. You can use Marvelous Mystery Oil. You can use, let me see where it is. Oh, this is penetrating oil. I'll show you about that later. But anyways, what you want to do, you can use any kind of spray with a lithium grease in it, a fine, light grease, and you can spray it right in here. This is your right in here. You want to spray it here and on the shafts. You want to spray in there, and you can also, and then work it. Work it so it's nice and easy. You can spin it, see? You can also spray some in the side hole. In the middle side hole, there's a 12 millimeter bolt. You get your spray can and a straw. You can insert it in the hole at the end of the bucket, in the middle hole, and spray a bunch of oil in there too. That will give it a chance to get the ends. So you want to spray in here. Can you see? Spray right there. Spray in here. This is the cam lock. Spray between the cam lock and the auger. Spray a bunch of oil in there. And then if you spray it in the end, it will lubricate from this side also. So that's all this is what you do. You could do it on both augers. If they spin freely, then you're okay. Now, a lot of times people leave their snow blowers outside in the weather for years and years and years, or they don't do this service point. It only takes about 10 minutes, and they don't do it. And what's going to happen is that the auger is going to get stuck, or it's going to be hard to turn. In that case, what I do is I put something, this is just an old shovel handle, or you can use a 2x4, you can use anything that you can put in the auger as a wedge and try breaking it free. See, I'm going to show you. I want it to break free. See, this one was a little bit hard. I put some penetrating oil in it, and then I was able to break it free. Now, sometimes what you have to use penetrating oil. You want to use penetrating oil. This is the best stuff that I have. It's called Yield. It's $25 a can. This stuff is great. I only use this when nothing else works. Some kind of nano technology or something. It works almost every time. And I'll use this if nothing else works. I'll use some regular penetrating oil, or I'll use liquid wrench penetrating oil. This is fairly cheap, but it did very, very well in comparison tests. So I'll use this first, let it set for a while, spray some in both ends of the augers, and wait and let it set. And then I'll use my lever and try to break it free. Now, sometimes you have to have patience. It might take a couple hours. It might take a couple days. It just depends on how bad it is. See if you can see these augers right there. Can you see these augers? They're stuck tight. So I had to remove them. And I sprayed some oil in the top, and I'm letting them sit. So they might have to sit for a while, before they break free. I'll put them in the vise, and then I'll use a long 2x4 and try to break it free. Usually they'll break free. I don't like to use heat because you might damage the seal in the auger gearbox. Well, anyways, do the same thing on this side. Make sure it spins nice and freely. Spray the lubricating oil in the ends and in here. And then you're good for the winter. Now let me show you quickly what happens if you can't get this free. If you can't get it free, no matter what, waiting a couple days and everything, and trying to use the lever and not getting it free, you may have to take the augers out. Now it's really not too difficult. You don't want to not do this service point. You do not want this to happen. This is a $300 to $400 job to repair this. So you could take the augers out, which is pretty easy, and then work on them that way. And then you probably need to service the auger gearbox. Look at this auger gearbox. You see how rusty it is right here? So this can be cleaned up. This can get cleaned up with a wire wheel or some steel wool. And then you clean that up and you use some copper. Well, you can use any kind of anti-seize. I use copper anti-seize. I used to use aluminum, but copper is much better. It's a lot thinner and it works much better. You can put a little bit on each everything, and it'll keep it from seizing up again, because water's going to get in there and it's going to rust up eventually. So you do that. I'll show you really quick how to take these out and how to service the augers a little bit. It's fairly easy, folks. So I really recommend this. What did I do with my... Okay, what you do is you take your main bolt out on the center, both sides. Well, first of all, you want to take your impeller pin out. That's the pin that holds your impeller inside. So you want to take this bolt out first. That's your impeller pin. I already did it to save time. Then you take your two, we already have the two bolts out here because you sprayed some oil in. There's 3 little bolts on each side. Take them out. Let me get over here and do this side. And then you just, all you have to do is pull the augers out. Augers come right out. When did that take me? A couple minutes. Then you can take the bearing. There's your side bearings. You can check your side bearings, making sure they don't need to be replaced. You can pull the rubber seal off with a pick and check the bearings and repack it with grease if you want to. Usually these don't have to be replaced. Maybe after a long time, 20, 25, 30 years, right now they're spinning nice and smoothly. I don't feel any resistance in there. So they're usually pretty good for a long time. So you take that off. You already have your shear pin out, right? So then you just pull it off. Now, if you can't pull it off, then you can put it in a vise and try to use a lever to break it free. But if you had a very difficult time breaking it free while it's in there, it might be a good idea to take these out so you can service them. This might take about, let me think, 10 minutes. So take them out, service them another 10 or 15 minutes maybe, and then put it back in, which could be probably about 20 minutes or so. It's a little bit harder to put things back together compared to taking it out. So you take the augers off. You want to clean your auger gearbox shafts, all 3 of them. You got these 2 and you got the one that drives the impeller here. Clean them all up. Put the anti-seize grease on them. You want to clean the rust out of your auger. Okay, you can use some steel wool or a brush, a steel brush. I do this all the time. So I've got this attachment on my drill, and I'll put it in there. Kind of clean it out really well. You don't see any rust. You use some oil and clean it all out till you don't see any more rust. And then you can put it all back together. You put this in them. Make sure that the teeth are facing out. On this machine, it's got teeth. You want the teeth facing out. You don't want to put them in backwards, otherwise you're not going to collect snow. So you want the teeth facing out. So you put it back together. Put your shear pins. Put your auger box back in like this. Put the shear pins in. I'm not going to do all this to save time. Put your bearing holdings on the ends. And then you can put your augers back in. It's fairly easy, folks. I mean, the first time you do anything, it always seems intimidating. It's more time consuming. This is what do you call it? A worst case scenario where you have to remove these. I see this a lot on the older Hondas that are left outside all the time. So If you take care of the machine, keep it indoors or covered up out of the elements, this may not happen. And if you do this service point, like I showed you on the first part of the video, which only takes 10 minutes or so, if you do that little service point every year, you're never going to have this problem. You're never going to have to pull them out. I mean, unless you want to do a major service, you know, removing the bucket and painting and doing a complete restoration of the machine, then you would take it out and clean it all up and put the anti-seize grease on everything. But the main point is I'm trying to put across is that you want those augers to turn freely when the shear pins are out, because you definitely don't want this to happen. It happens every winter a bunch of times, and no shops are going to have the time to fix this in the middle of a snowstorm. They're not going to do it. They're going to tell you to come back in the spring or buy a used one and stick it in there. But I hope this video helps you. I should have done it earlier in the summer or early fall, because this is a really, really good fall service point to make sure your snowblower is ready for the winter. So I appreciate you watching. Please subscribe to the channel, like and subscribe, make comments, suggestions, or whatever. Oh, the only other thing I want to try to emphasize is that you can use just about any kind of lubricating oil. Anything is better than nothing, okay? The shops use really expensive stuff. If you do this every year, you can use something like a WD-40 with lithium in it, lithium grease or whatever. Something that's going to stick. You don't want to use something that's going to wash off easily, like regular WD-40. It'll just wash off. But if that's all you have, then you can use that in a pinch. And then try to get a can of lithium spray, like I showed you. Here's another one I use, CRC white lithium grease. It's good for lubrication on just about everything that moves. Okay, folks? Thanks for watching and have a great day.